So you have the whole genre of Southern Gothic, which is a literary as well as a sort of film genre. Um, so films like Cape Fear, Key Largo, films that focus on kind of madness. There's always a storm. There's always a storm in the background, kind of pathetic fallacy sort of stuff.
Mm.
There's incest. There's violence. There's all things that kind of characterize this genre of Southern Gothic. It all stems from this brutal defeat of the South in the Civil War and the utter devastation that the South experienced, and also not only literal devastation, but kind of the sort of mental. A bit like the Germans after the First World War, they just couldn't believe that they'd lost. They thought,
Well, yeah, shell
how
shock.
has
It's
this
shell
happened?
shock. It's collective shell shock
They,
almost.
they just go, how on earth did this happen? We thought we could
We
do
thought
this.
we were the big dog. We should have been winning.
Yeah, and not only that, but it's insult to injury because what are called carpetbaggers, the Northerners who come down to basically take advantage of the fact that the South has been destroyed, and they just scoop up what's left and make a pretty penny out of it all, and they are totally loathed, Yankee carpetbaggers, as they're derisively called. Because the Confederate dollar itself was worthless. It sort of experienced hyperinflation. So a member of my own family, I think it's my great grandmother on my grandmother's side, she was tricked because she owned everything she could see land wise. She owned everything she could see to the horizon in this beautiful part of the Blue Ridge Mountains in North Carolina. And I think her husband had died fighting, and she was left with this. And she was unaware, like a lot of people were, of the true state of the Confederate dollar. That she didn't understand the economics of it. She thought, well, a dollar's a dollar, surely. So of course, all these damned Yankee carpetbaggers come down, and they give her what seems to her like a lot of money in Confederate dollars for the land, and buy it off her. And of course, they've totally robbed her blind. It's worthless. Within a few months, the currency you can't even use the currency. It's been once the South is readmitted, it's just scotched as a currency entirely. But even by that point, by the time they buy it off her, it's totally hyperinflated to the point where it felt like a fair deal to her, but she got totally swindled.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah. So Southern Gothic is an interesting psychological thing that springs out of this utter devastation that the South experiences, which culminates in, as I mentioned before, this surrender at Appomattox Courthouse, where Lee turns up, and both he and Grant are incredibly courteous to one another, and there's all these moving details, like Grant is kind of trying to do small talk at first because he doesn't want to get to the point, and Lee says, "Come on, we both know why we're here. Let's get on with this,"
Yeah.
And the scribe, had to give his pen to somebody else because he was shaking too much, recording the whole thing. Beautiful sort of details. And the northern soldiers start to cheer when Lee comes out, and it's clear that the surrender has been made, officially made. And Grant rebukes them and tells them, no, we're not cheering at this. This is a sad day, and it's a very somber. It should be a sort of joyful moment, but of course, in an international war, it is a joyful moment like VE Day because you have vanquished your foe, and your foe is this completely separate entity to you. But this is sort of Cain and Abel. This is brother on brother.
Well, it's fratricide. It is.
Yeah, it is, and it's a very sad moment. So Grant himself, there's no sense of kind of, I mean, aside from the few who kind of don't read the room and cheer, and are told off by Grant. It's a very melancholic moment, and it's a sort of Pyrrhic victory. It's like, okay, we've preserved the Union, but at what cost? This is going to be hard. This is going to be really tough. And after the war, to sort of jump slightly, because of course we had the assassination of Lincoln in April of '65. Shortly after, I believe it was April, it might be May. Shortly after the surrender, an actor called John Wilkes Booth, who's again a Southern fire eater, he catches wind that Lincoln is going to be attending Ford's Theatre, to see this light comedy called My American Cousin, sort of Oscar Wilde sort of comedy. So he thinks brilliant, and Grant is going to go, and several other generals. So he and his kind of ragtag bunch of misfits all say, they parcel out all the jobs, and they say, right, okay, Booth says, well, I'm going to get Lincoln, you get Grant, you get Sherman, you get, all these. I don't think Sherman was there, but you know what I mean. All the they were sort of delegating all the assassinations, but he was the only one who actually went through with his. Grant, luckily for Grant, he cried off sick or something before, so he didn't actually go. He wasn't actually there. So Wilkes Booth sneaks into the presidential box, shoots him in the back of the head. He actually, interestingly, he enters with a knife in one hand and a gun in the other. So I guess he thought, if it all goes wrong, I can
do it the old-fashioned way.
I can stab the guy. Yeah. So shoots him in the back of the head, jumps over the balcony, gets his foot caught in the kind of curtain stuff, the kind of frilly stuff that's on the edge of the balcony, sort of lands awkwardly, breaks his foot, and as he lands on stage, and he cries out, "Sic semper tyrannis." So thus is it always to tyrants or something. And sort of limps off stage. But apparently some people in the theatre hear it as the South is avenged. So it's ambiguous as to exactly what he said, but the general consensus is that he says something along the lines of "Sic semper tyrannis." But because Lincoln is assassinated, he's replaced, just as JFK is, he's replaced by a Johnson, Andrew Johnson, his vice president. But Andrew Johnson, because in the election of 1964, you've always got to think, when you're picking a vice president, it's the same today. When you're picking a vice president, you want somebody who is going to bring in people that you're not necessarily bringing in. So Johnson is a Southern sympathizer. He's a Southern man. He's a Tennessee man. So he is kind of he's on the ballot precisely to bring together as many different factions as can possibly be brought together for Lincoln's victory. Because Johnson is more of a Southern sympathizer, he basically just lets them off scot-free, lets the South off scot-free, readmits them with very little fuss, is very, very lenient, and basically undoes, in all but name, kind of undoes the Emancipation Proclamation. And it's a massive setback for the newly freed blacks, because suddenly their former owners their former masters are now basically back as they were before. They still own the land that they owned before. Yes, they're now free, but a lot of them end up actually working for their old masters, but now getting paid a sort of pittance. So things don't really change all that much. There is following that a period of quite healthy Reconstruction, which is incredibly productive for Black Americans, but initially it's really, really tough. And then of course you get a short period of Reconstruction followed by Jim Crow. You also get in 1867 the founding of the Ku Klux Klan. So basically the South is pissed off and looking to get back whatever they can, and they've got an awful lot of sympathizers in the North who let them do it. And it's a bit of a hollow victory for the abolitionists, because and this is where you get the Great Migration as well up to the northern cities, because although they're free, they ostensibly get their 40 acres and a mule. Something that Kendrick Lamar puts in several of his songs, I've noticed. Although they get their federally instituted 40 acres and a mule, life is by no means improved. It's a tough existence.